If you are a user, then everything you've done so far has been according to plan, right? Here's your look at the Diamond Select. This is the Tron action figure from the 1982 film Tron. When a brilliant video game maker named Flynn hacks the mainframe of his ex-employer, he is beamed inside an astonishing digital world and becomes part of the very game he is designing. He must team up with the heroic program Tron and invade the forces of the Master Control program to find his way home and shut down the power-hungry MCP once and for all. This action figure of Tron is based on his appearance in the movie Tron and features 16 points of articulation. Loving these Tron figures. So we're going to have a look at Tron next. This is, of course, Tron, taken from the movie of the same name. And we're going to first figure out how tall the figure stands before, of course, we get in depth with the review. While I'm doing this, I'd also like to send a thank you to Diamond Select, who were nice enough to send all the Tron figures that we're having a look at in this series of reviews here. According to my trusty tape measure, the Ultra Measure-Tron 5000, no connection to Master Control, no. Not that I'm aware of, at least. According to that, the figure stands 7.3 inches in height. In centimeters, you're looking at the figure standing 18.7, so a little over 18.5 centimeters tall. Here's the Tron that we are going to have a look at, next to the Flynn that we just recently had a look at. Both from one of my all-time favorite films, the 1982 Tron, which I might have even in the Flynn review said it was 1984, but it was actually 1982. One thing that is neat about the fact that these figures are, one is Infiltrator Flynn, is the fact that he does have a different color swap out to the Tron that we would look at here in all blue. It's a nice contrast of colors. Don't get me wrong, though. I mean, I would love to see Flynn decked out all in blue. I think there was a release of him done in blue, but the one that we had looked at was all done in orange. As I said, it's a nice contrast when you think of the fact that the figures themselves are more just a lighter gray to start off with. A little bit of extra tweaking of color to make them stand out from one another. There's nothing wrong with that at all. The accessories that come included with Tron happen to be, the starting at least of it, happens to be the exact same accessory that we looked at with Infiltrator Flynn, and that is this egg-shaped matte black display stand. Quite the irregular egg. Let me just pull that back a little bit. The shape of it is more probably closer to an oval than anything else. One small standalone peg greets you at the door and allows you to stand the figure not so much in a dynamic pose, but most definitely in just a regular museum standing pose. Now, it's not to say that you can't use this for dynamic poses. I mean, you know, you can also break off the mold, step outside the grid if you want, and only put one foot right there and the other foot outside. I did that with Flynn. So yes, he does come with a display stand. Pretty much the same stuff as what we had seen before with Flynn's offerings. Also, speaking of common things shared, not quite the same coloring, granted, no, but Tron does come included with his identity disc, spiraled here in ringlets of blue as opposed to orange that Flynn had acquired. This one here is, like I said, Tron's identity disc. Works the exact same way. You can either put it in his hand, or there's a little peg noted on the back here, and you just plug this into place. Just push it down just as much as you can get it, and the identity disc stays perfectly fine in place. He does have a couple of others as well that we can have a look at. Put the figure right there for a second. Yes, he does come with not one, but two Throne identity discs. I don't know why specifically this one has a little bit of extra paint there. I thought it was on the other side, and that's not actually the case. But he does have a little bit of paint on this one. Both of them are in swooshing effects in different directions. This one is more of a curve. This one is just a straight out thrown forward. But they work the exact same way. I didn't really spend nearly enough time talking about this with the Flynn, so we'll discuss this right now. See these little points on the edges of the swoosh? Yes, that translucent blue swoosh, it kind of looks like candy, doesn't it? Well, what you can do with those is you take it and you fit it in between the figures. The throwing one on an angle is a little bit more difficult, but you just wedge it in between the fingers like so. Let's not drop it in the process. Let's go ahead and try that again. There we go. Just fit it, like I said, in between the fingers. You'll have more success maybe with one way than another, but just keep continuing to try it until, again, you get the desired look that you want. The straight out one seems a little bit easier to fit in place. You kind of want to not fit it on here, but instead fit it just in between, like I said, the fingers, and you can have the throwing disc very securely staying in place and looking almost naturally like they threw the disc out. One thing also you can do, I'll just pop this out for a second, going back to what Flynn had come included with. Remember, he did have the reflecting ricocheting disc. Well, Flynn also, you could just attach that in his hand. Just take, again, those points, slot it in between the fingers. And like I said, it's not going to go anywhere. It looks like he's throwing the disc. But you can also use this for Tron. You can hold this with both hands, so it actually looks like he's ricocheting off one of the identity discs thrown at them. That's the neat, appealing thing about these. Even when we look at Sark, for example, you can mix and match these discs. I mean, nothing is to say that you have to be designated and married to the idea of displaying one with the figure that it comes included with. That's blasphemy. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that at all. So he does come with 2 identity discs. Technically 3, of course, the one on the back there as well. And again, of different directions depending on what your preference is. Pick your poison, if you will. Tron also comes with a series of interchangeable hands. Throwing hands, for example. We had already discussed that, I feel, ad nausea. He comes with a pair of those. And then he also comes with a pair of hands suited for holding the sides of the disc, what I started with at the beginning of this review. If you want to change out any one of the hands, though, it's simply just a case of unpegging it, freeing it from the prison of his socket there, and then just go ahead and take the hand that you want to change it out to, pop that back into place, and now you got yourself, like I said, a throwing hand. Go ahead and take the disc once again, slide that in place. This one's a little bit more difficult because it sticks out a little bit further, but as you can see, there we go, you can quite easily have him looking as if he's throwing the disc. Pretty effective the way that they've done that. I'm sure one question you guys also probably want to be asking yourselves is, can Tron actually pull off the look that he has in the film? Technically, yes. You just bend the arms straight up as if somebody's holding him up, stick him up. Don't point that at me, it's got a nail on the end of it. And then you just angle the elbows inward, just like that. Just like that, and just like that. One thing that works in his favor is the fact that he does have the double hinges on the elbows. And then from there, you can just go ahead and take the identity disc, and you can just wedge that in between his hands, like that. Reminds me of John Cusack. Was it from Say Anything, where he's holding the boombox over top of his head? I didn't like that film as much as I like Tron. 2 completely different films. I don't know why I'm comparing the 2. But yes, you can't pull that look off. The only thing you can't pull off with Tron is that you can't get his head to actually angle up. Once again, the culprit is the size of the helmet that he's sporting. It just doesn't give you the necessary means to actually have the head angled up. But you can pull off the look. And again, he can receive his message from the user. There we go. I just dropped the identity disc. Anyways. So those are the accessories that come included with the figure. We'll have to retrieve the identity disc later. We know what happens if they lose their identity disc. So having a look at Tron, what a nice looking head sculpt. If we compare the 2 side by side once again, I feel comparatively, if you look at the 2 figures side by side, that Flynn has a more striking resemblance to Jeff Bridges, whereas I feel like Tron looks like a young Bruce Boxleitner, but I think Jeff Bridges' likeness is a little bit stronger. It does look like Bruce, don't get me wrong. I think it's a very good head sculpt, but I think that, like I said, the one for Jeff Bridges and Flynn looks much closer. Still is the off-coloring of his skin, kind of that purple tinted gray, against the backdrop of, an otherwise light gray figure. Still pretty much what you get with Flynn is what you get here with Tron, though again, the 2 differencing in patterns, they aren't that much different really when you look at them. We'll go ahead and take the identity disc off of Flynn. Try our best not to drop that one. We'll put that to the side. If you look at them side by side, they share very identical looking pattern work. Even like on their gauntlets is also the same. And spin it around. The helmets though are different. If you look at the 2, much more intricate pattern work done on Tron's than on Flynn's. And it's really only the front that gets a little bit of a different change of pace, while the back is definitely very, exact and duplicated to one another. The fronts, the torso, the pattern work on the torso is different from one another. As for the figure's detailing, his pattern work is a little bit also more symmetrical than Flynn's. He doesn't have the sash, so he doesn't have the hindrance of being able to move his arms outward. He still has the problem with the shoulders being sort of preventing the arms from moving out further out from a 45. That is a 45-degree angle, in case anybody was wondering. But at least he has a little bit more freedom to move his arms all the way around, whereas Flynn didn't necessarily have that. The figure's paintwork would be something certainly problematic when you're working with a light-colored plastic like this and having those very intricate little panel lines, but I have no real issues at all with the paintwork. It's very clean, it's very concise, and it's very precise the way it's been applied to the figure. Like I said, it's generally quite clean. I don't have any real issues whatsoever. Also, something to note as well is the sculpting of the legs. See my finger that's running through the grooves? This is actually sculpted in place. It's not been painted. The torso, however, has been just printed the image over top of the plastic. But I like, at least for the arms, the shoulder pads, and the legs, there is actually grooved in detailing that they added to the surface of the plastic. So that's really, really cool the way they've done that. For Tron's articulation, we'll go ahead and look at that right now. His head rotates all the way around. It doesn't quite hinge up as for the problems I've already listed before, but his head does move down. Slight rock back and forth, not too much there. Because he does also have that sash completely omitted on this figure, you can get really the full idea, the full range of what they're actually capable of doing if you had so much, like I said, of that restraint completely removed. He does have the upper torso ball joint, which rotates back and forth, a slight rocking back and forth as well. Arms move at, I'd only said, a 45-degree angle. Yeah, you can't move them any further out than that. You can rotate the arms all the way around, though, on Tron. Swivel at the bicep, concealed very nicely underneath the shoulder pad. See that? It's cut right there. He has a double hinge on the elbow, like that, and he does also have the rotation on the hands. Whatever hands you decide, it seems to be like a gravitational pull happening and pulling all those accessories down. Let's quickly swap out his hands. I feel like I would feel so terrible if Tron had a missing hand in the socket. Legs split out. Oh, let's not also forget the waist swivel, which is a little tighter on this figure. Waist swivel. Legs split out. They go forward, they go back. There's a swivel on the third cut of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. No articulation in the boots to speak of. The feet, however, do go up and down hinge, and you can rotate them back and forth. What a nice looking Tron. Even though, let's say, the greater part of the figure's accessories ended up on the floor. What's going on down there? Is Master Control down there? Oh, apparently he is. He's liking my reviews. Thank you. Thank you, by the way. A nice looking Tron overall. I think sculpt-wise, it's definitely on point. Maybe not as on point as Flynn, who I think has the better-looking head sculpts of the two, but still a nice welcomed addition to my Tron collection. Luckily, Tron avoids another day of de-resolution, as this user was able to find, retrieve, and return his much-needed identity disc. Whew, that was close. As you can see here in final looks, I've got him displayed with the identity disc high above his head, waiting to receive the signal from the sky. Pulling off the proper display for the identity disc, which I didn't actually pull off in the review. Something told me something didn't sit right. He shouldn't be holding it like he's holding up a clean dinner plate. He should be holding it above his head like he's holding up a frisbee here in final looks. As this certainly is the poster artwork, most definitely this is going to be the way I'm going to display Tron when it comes to having him displayed on my shelf. While I wasn't able to appreciate a figure like this, I think when he first came out, the film did come out in 1982, that would have pointed me at being around 4 years old. Yes, you can do the math doing that. 4-year-old version of me certainly wouldn't appreciate the film. I enjoyed it a little bit later on in life, probably around 10 to 12 is when I was watching Tron religiously. And 10 times that 4, I can now certainly appreciate these exquisite figures. Yes, you can stop to do the math on that. These exquisite figures released from the folks over at Diamond Select. The likeness on this is good, a solid outing for a Bruce Boxleitner appearance, though I do feel the appearance and awards should be given to Flynn for nailing that dead-on likeness of actor Jeff Bridges. Still, this is a nice release, and based on what I'm seeing so far, what the Sark is also going to be looking like, as I've already seen them obviously in packaging, these are a good stellar bunch of a trio of Tron figures. Trio isn't actually a word, but 3 Tron figures we can certainly put on display. I'd most definitely like to see Diamond Select continue the trend, going back into the digital world and maybe pull and pluck some other things from that film. Lar certainly would be a nice welcomed addition, and maybe some light cycles, why not? Could you imagine these figures with light cycles? Oh, that would be awesome. Either way, though, if you manage to pick up Tron for yourself, or Flynn for yourself, or Sark for yourself, or you're lucky enough to pick up all three figures, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of them, or based on this review and this review alone. A big thank you again to the folks over at Diamond Select who were nice enough to send these samples my way. Yes, we are still going to be having a look at Sark. His review will be coming up in the next video, so keep your peepers peeled for that. If you're also new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and yes, you don't have to jump into the digital realm to keep your peepers peeled to this channel. Videos are going to be going up on a regular basis, and if you do hit that bell notification, it's your best guarantee that when new videos are coming onto this channel, you'll be in the know. Be in the know, don't be out of the know. Wait, what? Either way, we are going to be having a look, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. We're going to be having a look at the Sark in the next video, so stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.